The video discusses Warren Buffett's Q3 2021 portfolio changes, including a reduction in Activision Blizzard and a mysterious new position, as well as his selling of 86% of his Taiwan semiconductor holdings and U.S. banks, which indicates a shift in his investment strategy. Other portfolio changes discussed in the video include a reduction in Activision Blizzard and a mysterious new position. Welcome back at Financial Fortune, your daily advisor that gives you news and tips for financial success. Just keep on watching. The amount of change in Warren Buffett's portfolio during the third quarter of 2021 was negligible. This video presents a discussion on recent buying and selling activities conducted by Warren Buffett, leading up to the year 2023. The third quarter of 2021 saw Warren Buffett make a limited number of notable portfolio adjustments, and relatively few other moves overall.
One of the things I bought, was bought for a different purpose by a different manager months earlier. He bought roughly 15 million shares of Activision, and I never paid. I knew about the company, but I would just see it at the monthly report. But then on January, 17th or 18th, something like that, Microsoft announced they were going to buy Activision for $95 a share. Now, when they announced that, at that point, Activision becomes a different kind of security. It becomes what Charlie and I used to call, everybody did, 50 years ago, we call them workouts or something like that, and they become known as arbitrage. Well, they're not really arbitrage, but they're securities, they're, in this case, a common stock, whose value depends not on what the market price does, but whether a given corporate event occurs, an announced corporate event occurs. Well, Microsoft wants to buy Activision, we'll say it. Well, they said at $95 a share. And they've got the money, and obviously mergers and big mergers, tech companies, all kinds of things, have got all kinds of problems with the world generally in terms of opinion. So you don't know what the Justice Department will do, or you don't know what the EU will do, and all kinds of things. But at that point, it becomes a different security. And Charlie and I, 50 years ago, we used to do a lot of that sort of thing. And Gus Levy did it at Goldman Sachs, and we even went back one time, I think, on British Columbia Power, didn't we, Charlie?
Yeah, we certainly did.
Yeah. A guy named Bennett was up there, and we were trying to figure out whether some takeover of the power business. I mean, we spent a lot of time analyzing the probabilities of announced deals going through, and we call them workouts. Now the term became ARB, and it hasn't worked overall too well in recent years. Now, every now and then, I see something that I want to do in that field, but very seldom, because they got to be big.
Buffett sold 86% of the shares of Taiwan Semiconductor that he had purchased in the third quarter of 2022 for a total cost of $4 billion.
Well, I want to point out, recall in mid-November, we told you that Berkshire Hathaway took a big bet on Taiwan Semiconductor, an over $4 billion stake. But that happened in Q3. Well, we're finding out today from the 13F that it cut its stake by 86% in Q4, ending December. So the stock is reacting in the OT right now, down almost 4%, but on light volume, as we learned that Berkshire sold out of most of its position out of Taiwan Semi. So this really shows how hedge funds just move in and out of stocks. Berkshire also cutting its U.S. Bancorp stake by 91%. Stock not really reacting so much, and then also shed some McKesson shares. This, though, very important for our viewers, happened in Q4, so not reflected of this current quarter. But I do have data for the current quarter, and that comes from 13G filings, which shows when a company takes a 5% or plus stake in a firm. Berkshire did cut its stakes in Activision Blizzard this quarter, as well as Bank of New York Mellon this quarter, and lastly boosted its position in Louisiana Pacific this quarter.
Shares of Taiwan Semiconductor on the move after Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway reduced its holding in the chip maker, selling billions of dollars worth of shares just months after taking a major stake in the company. In what is an unusually quick reversal for Warren Buffett. Of course, Warren Buffett is known to basically and sometimes hold stocks on forever. I can't help but to think about Coca-Cola, a longtime holding of his. But again, this move by Warren Buffett really pressuring shares of Taiwan Semiconductor, and unclear why he would be dumping that. Top ticker on our site.
Yeah, I mean, they held about $4.1 billion worth of shares in November, sold 86% of it here. So a massive move here. Of course, Taiwan Semiconductor had already reported earnings last month in January. So perhaps something within that didn't perhaps sit right with Buffett, the stock market slayer over here.
Well, he's essentially saying that maybe the computer market, the PC correction, doesn't end this year. We've heard a lot of these PC makers, of course, with their own agendas, telling us maybe later this year, people will go out and buy more PCs, demand will come back, you'll need more semiconductor chips, but I don't know, I read Warren Buffett's thing as saying maybe this continues into next year.
Or maybe we shouldn't read anything into it at all. I mean, that's like, this is the issue. We don't know, right? That's the thing with these 13F filings. All they are is a snapshot of a moment in time of what the holdings were. It could just be, although it would be unusual, to be fair, for Warren Buffett, it could just be wanting to take a profit, saw the opportunity to take a profit, and he took it.
Even Warren could use money.
And we always use Warren Buffett as totally analogous with Berkshire Hathaway. As we know, he probably has to approve a move like this, but he doesn't necessarily initiate a trade like this. That could be his lieutenants over there at Berkshire Hathaway. So could it be a signal of what they're seeing in the PC market? Could it be a signal of a little bit of a style change at Berkshire Hathaway, as we see maybe his lieutenants, just like Apple was a departure for Berkshire Hathaway. Who knows?
Now their biggest holding.
I don't know. I'm just wildly theorizing.
Could they be freeing up cash to make a big purchase? That's the other one.
Although they have had a lot of cash sitting around, so I don't think
it's not challenging days at Berkshire Hathaway.
Right.
They have more cash to Airbnb. Let's put
and by the way, a lot of other hedge funds we learned in the 13Fs picked up Taiwan Semiconductor, so that was interesting too.
Yeah. So we'll see exactly what comes for TSMC. They're trying to open up more capacity as well within their 7-nanometer and more advanced technologies. So we'll get a little bit more nerdy as we hear a few more of those advancements as well.
Warren Buffett suddenly selling off his holdings in Taiwan Semiconductor, causing shares of the chipmaker to fall as investors wonder if he knows something that others don't. The reversal all the more notable because of how closely the sale follows Buffett's earlier disclosure of his holdings. Buffett, of course, is legendary for his long-term bets on names like Coca-Cola and Apple. So let's get a deeper dive with Yahoo Finance's Dan Howley. I mean, when the Oracle makes a move, people pay attention here, Dan.
That's right, Rochelle. We looked at kind of the numbers as far as how much he's dropped in terms of TSMC. He had shed about 86% of his holdings, Berkshire Hathaway rather, of TSMC. That goes from essentially what was 51 million shares all the way down to around, I actually have the number right here, $4.1 billion worth of shares to $617,000 in shares of TSMC. The company's stock price down 5.5%. The last I took a look, but increased the value of how much he has in Apple. That's now at $116.3 billion. And so there's a few things that are worth looking at here when it comes to TSMC. And, you can obviously recognize that if TSMC is going down, the rest of the industry, the semiconductor industry, would be going down as well. But, there's a few things going on here with TSMC and the broader chip market. That is what's happening in terms of demand. Obviously, during the pandemic, we saw people go out, purchase everything that needed a semiconductor, whether that's cars, phones, laptops, monitors, and now people are pulling back on the buying of at least those tech goods, those phones, monitors, laptops, desktops, things along those lines. So that could be part of the reason that we're seeing. But as you pointed out, and as obviously is well known for Buffett and Berkshire, they hold on to things. So this seems to be a blip as far as the long tail story of semiconductors would be. There is, however, also the story of China and its desire to unify Taiwan and China as one country. Obviously the U.S.'s stance is they oppose any kind of unilateral change on the status of Taiwan. But this has raised a lot of concerns as to what this means for companies like TSMC. And oh, by the way, they also have manufacturing capabilities in China. What does that mean when you look at how the U.S. is trying to cut off some of China's ability to get access to Western technology? So, there's this larger issue going on as far as the politics, the geopolitics of what impacts TSMC. But then we look at something like Apple, and then obviously we saw him digging deeper in there, buying up more shares of that company, his largest holding as far as value. And that has to do a little bit more potentially with what he sees going forward for Apple. Yes, they did have a decline in revenue, but prior to Q1's decline, from 2019 onward, they had record revenue each quarter. We also have that headset coming, so that means they could be getting into a new hardware space. Not too sure if that means we're actually going to see that take off, though.
Certainly a lot at play here, with Apple obviously turning towards its own chips, geopolitical issues, and then on top of that going from a chip shortage to a chip glut. So interesting to see how this plays out, but an interesting move there from the Oracle of Omaha.
Buffett has already sold 86% of his holdings in a particular company, which indicates that he intends to completely withdraw from the company in his subsequent 13F filing. The 13F filing that Warren Buffett submitted for the fourth quarter of 2022 showed very little activity, with only a few minor adjustments made to his portfolio. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, or if you found it helpful, please click the like button. If you wish to view other videos like this one, please subscribe.